What is up, guys? Dan here at Applied Ballistics. This is going to be a video, whether you're a beginner, new to firearms completely, or you're just kind of interested in purchasing. This video is going to go over all the various things that you could be buying for your first gun, or if you're trying to add something to the collection. You want to check out more from me, be sure to follow me over on Instagram at NoChillTactical. Let's go. Basically, you're going to be looking at three different kinds of firearms. You're going to have pistols, you're going to have rifles, you're going to have shotguns, and there's various kinds of each, but those are the three main categories. And how I like to classify them is rifles are for your far away tyranny, pistols are for your concealable immediate tyranny needs, anti-tyranny needs, and shotguns are for your up close and personal anti-tyranny needs. But all joking aside, there are many uses for them. There's personal protection, self-defense, which is more kind of my focus with firearms. There's hunting, there's just the sportsman side, competition shooting, things of that nature. Definitely a place for all three of those in all of those various uses as well, except maybe for hunting with a pistol. I don't know about that one. But shotgun, rifle, definitely. Self-defense, all three. Competition, all three. So you really got to kind of narrow in and focus on what you are trying to do. First up, pistols. All right, so first of all firearms used in these videos have been checked and are empty and safe. So we have two main kinds of pistols. You have your revolvers and your magazine-fed semi-automatic pistols, okay? Differences being, you can see here, revolvers are gonna have 5 or 6 rounds or more, depending on what kind of ammo you have in it. And they are going to be one pull trigger, one fire. There's no real safeties on these, but the trigger pull is a lot heavier, so less chance of discharge accidentally. Typically, most of the carry ones are smaller, like this guy, but they do have them in multiple sizes, all the way up to big 357 Magnums with huge long barrels that I'm sure you've seen in movies out there. But the real thing, the real difference is going to be how the bullets go in the gun and your capacity of bullets. Going to be typically smaller with a revolver compared to a magazine-fed semi-automatic. So probably the more common personal carry that people use and most people's first purchase is going to be a handgun for multi-use purposes. Unless your whole reason is hunting, this is the kind of thing you're probably going to buy. This is a MP, Smith & Wesson MP Shield. Shoots 9mm. You can see here the magazine can hold 8 rounds plus one in the chamber, so you'll have 9 carrying capacity if you carry it cocked and locked, which means you have one in the chamber so that when it is time to go, you don't have to pull the slide back before you start firing. Lots of thoughts one way or another on that, very much personal preference. So these will hold more ammo typically than a revolver is going to hold, which makes them more ideal for self-defense because you can put more rounds down target. They also have a very slim profile, especially if you go compact, which allows you to carry and easily and more comfortably. Only argument against that would be the revolver, that snub nose that I had. Very easy to carry in your pocket or as a boot gun. These do have safeties typically as well. So this one has an ambidextrous safety right there, which if you have a bullet in the chamber is nice to have because that's going to prevent accidental firing. This one also has a safety on the handle, so your hand actually needs to be pressing against it before it actually works. So biggest differences between these two, again, less carrying capacity, tiny little guy you can throw in your pocket, more carrier capacity, typically a little bigger, though they do make super tiny subcompacts and micros of semi-automatic weapons as well. But if you are looking more self-defense, you are probably going to side with something that holds more bullets. At least if it's me, that's what I would do. This is going to be a much more common option for a first purchase for most people than the other. But hey, it's you. Do what you want. And hey, before we get into rifles, which will be our next section of this video, why have you guys not gone to Applied Ballistics? If you're in Lafayette, it is the only indoor range. If you are not in Lafayette, we can get you great deals and order stuff online. Check the link in the description for all of your gun and tactical needs. Oh baby, so this is a fun one. When it comes to guns, you could do a lot with a rifle. It can be something like this AR style rifle. Your magazine fed into the bottom right here. Holds more rounds than a pistol typically, because there's more. Holds bigger bullets than typically, as you can tell from the magazine size. Has options like throwing on these handles and covers here and holding pistol grip down there. You get a little more stability with a rifle because you can be braced into your shoulder. Much easier to add sights. And with rifles, you're not really worried about concealment. So you can get a lot of stuff on there and get all crazy and tactical if you would like to with something like this AR. This is going to be semi-automatic, so one trigger pull, one bullet, just like you would the magazine-fed handgun. I like to think of magazine-fed rifles more as just if your handgun didn't have to hide and it could shoot a lot further. It's very much similar mechanically. For most people, probably not going to be a first purchase. Most people are probably going to purchase a handgun first. But if you already got your handgun, now you're looking at rifles, and we're looking at different varieties, the AR or an AK or something like that is going to be a lot of people's first bigger purchase pick. I myself have a Smith & Wesson carbine that I use and really like just because it fires 9mm, which is cheap ammo. But here is another option. It is in some bigger caliber bullets than that. But this, good for defense, good for hunting, good for target shooting, like great multi-purpose rifle, kind of does everything. That's why you hear so much about ARs, because they're kind of the most common do-everything rifle you got out there. All right, so we went from the coveted AR, the one that does everything and does everything kind of extremely well, in my opinion, and many others. We are now going to the hunting or target focus, which, honestly, a lot of people will carry for home defense, for self-defense, but realistically, you're going to use your guns a lot more for target and for hunting if you're a hunter. So this right here is something you're going to look at if that is what you want to focus on. This actually shoots a 22 long rifle, which is a small caliber of ammo. So this is definitely more for target, maybe shooting some varmints, things that are pests around your farm, like squirrels and groundhogs maybe. But it is not going to be putting down any big game by any means. So this is definitely more of a target style rifle. That being said, they make them in many different calibers, many different ammunition sizes, so we can get a rifle that looks real similar to this that's going to be able to take down deers and things of that nature as well. You'll also notice when it comes to rifles that are more focused on targets and hunting, without the self-defense piece, you're going to have the bigger scopes typically, so you can get downrange and see targets further away. You also have either a bolt action, which is kind of a fire one, put it back, or magazine fed like this one. Magazine fed, definitely more convenient and more efficient. So something like this is going to be considerably cheaper usually than an AR, but it's because it's doing one thing, a more simple thing, really, really well when it comes to target shooting and hunting compared to an AR or a self-defense one that has to do more complex activities, and there's just more considerations with how the gun has to be built in order to be efficient at that job. We are crouching or laying down or in a tree stand, chilling, shooting targets, or going after some unsuspecting animals so we can feed ourselves, which, you know, if you hate hunting, I get it. If you don't, I get that too. Okay, so we talked about the Can Do It All, the AR. We talked about the hunting rifle, more specific, sharpshooter, bigger scope, less bells and whistles on it. That is our specialty that way. Now, if we are serious about home defense, self-defense, and a rifle, let me introduce you to the bullpup style. As you can see, shorter. A lot more happening on the back end, on the butt of the gun. That's where your magazine is, that's where your ammo's fed. Your barrel comes back a lot further, which allows you to have a shorter profile. So when I had my AR, it's sticking out here. Bullpup, we're all the way back here. Again, gun's not loaded, so don't freak out that I touched the barrel. So you still get the stability because you're bumped up against your shoulder. You still get the increased accuracy because it has a long barrel, but it puts all the mechanical stuff that takes space up here and tucks it back. So what this allows you to do is, if you are, say, in a home defense situation and you are coming around corners, my hand is right here. With an AR, my hand would be right here and you'd have another 6 or 7 inches of barrel sticking out. So if I'm coming around a corner and you're in a tight space, tight spaces can get handled with this rifle. With a longer rifle, tight spaces get a little more challenging. So for self-defense in a home and a rifle, the bullpup design is great. It has none of the drawbacks of a longer rifle, and I would argue all of the same advantages of a longer rifle, because you still have the long barrel. You can still add all the accessories on that you want, but you're more compact, which makes your maneuverability so much better. And you can probably tell from my tone of voice talking about this that, oh my God, it's the next one I want to get. So very cool. Definitely, if you've never tried one out and you're an AR guy, if you can get your hands on something that's a bullpup style and fire it, I think you're gonna have a really hard time not wanting that if you're looking mainly at self-defense for your rifles. So that is the varieties we're gonna talk about there. Next up, we are talking about the big blasters, shotguns. The shotgun. So they do a couple cool things. So shotguns will let you use a lot of different shells. So shells are gonna be thicker cylindrical things. They have solid shells called slugs that are just a straight giant piece of metal going out. Great for hunting, specific game. You have buckshot, which has pellets in it that spreads, but they're bigger pieces, so it's a more condensed area. You have bird shot, which when you fire, it kind of explodes out and it's kind of a bigger spray, so it's easier to shoot a bird, as the name would suggest, but it doesn't do a ton of damage into a bigger animal. So bird shot on a person, probably just piss them off, it'll hurt, or a animal like a deer, same deal, gonna scare them, gonna piss them off, but it's not really gonna do anything to them permanently. So it is cool that shotguns have so many different varieties of ammo. You can have one shotgun that can shoot all these things. Whereas with a pistol or a rifle, there's specific calibers of ammunition for each. And by and large, shotguns, there kind of aren't. If it fits in a shell casing, it's pretty much good to go in a shotgun, which is nice. Now, there are some exceptions to that, but hey, we're all beginners here, just learning some basic stuff. So deal with it. Come in the comments and come at me if you want. You're probably right. I'm probably wrong. It's okay. Anyways, first variety of shotgun is a pump action. So you have to slide this up and down to get more shells into the chamber. You load your shells individually right through there. and you just stack, 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 stack. Then you would rack the slide, and it comes on in through there into your rifle, and then you are good to fire. So a lot of similarities to rifles, right? It's long, it has the butt so that you can be stable when you are firing. It's got that long barrel, but you do have the variety of shells to use in very many different situations. So you have some good versatility in general in the shotgun. Pump action, pop, pop, fire, pop, pop, fire. Definitely works for self-defense. Probably more geared for target or hunting though, where you are not just bam, 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 shooting a deer like that. You're probably taking one shot and then it's running and you'll never hit it if you've missed. So that is the pump action shotgun. Other cool thing about shotguns, relatively cheap, especially the pump action variety versus pistols and rifles. Little simpler on the mechanics, just not a ton of crazy engineering going on in here, and lots of room for stuff so they don't have to make tiny parts to do the same thing. So shotguns, much better deal than a lot of your other firearms. Maybe a great first pick for you. All right, last up, we have another variety of shotguns. So as with your pistols, as with your rifles, you have your do-it-alls, you have your specific thing, you have your lower tech, less bells and whistles, probably less ammo, probably more simple in its operation, maybe a little slower to fire, things of that nature. You have that with pistols, between the revolver and the semi-automatics. You have that in rifles, between a hunting rifle like a bolt action versus an AR with 23 bullets in it. You have that similarly in shotguns. The pump action, more basic. You have to re-rack the slide every time. Typically not as much ammo, can have more ammo, just depends on what thing you get. So similar to shotguns, we have the pump action and we have the semi-automatic. You'll notice there is no slide to pull back on here. This works similarly to how a semi-automatic pistol does or semi-automatic rifle does. We're still loading shells in just like we did with the pump action, right? But then after we pull that slide back and we have one in the chamber, every time we pull that trigger, boom, 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 we are going to have another one reset without re-racking. So that is your only real difference here. So if you want a shotgun that is an all-in-one, you want a home defense, you want hunting, you want target shooting, a semi-automatic shotgun, though pricier, does everything a little better. There are a lot of things in the world where you can get the cheap version that gets the job done, or you can get the super expensive version that has a bunch of crap you don't need, but also gets the job done, or you can get something kind of mid-tier, mid-range. That's where this fits. This is a semi-automatic shotgun. It does everything well, does it fires faster, more efficiently than a pump action, but you're not getting all the crazy stuff that you would get with some of the tactical shotguns with, you know, pistol grips and a big magazine feeding shells in. They also have bullpup versions of shotguns, which are super cool, but also super pricey. Basically, the more tactical you get with the thing, the more expensive it gets because there's more that goes into it. There's more moving parts on the inside. They have to be dialed in a little differently because that performance is more complicated in the inside. So they have to be better, more reliable parts, and typically more intricate mechanisms happening compared to something like a pump action, which is just a cock it, you're done. Nothing else is happening. So those are your options for shotguns. I wish I had a bullpup one here to show you, but I don't. But they are just as cool for the same reasons as the rifles. I think you can probably tell my preference there. But I hope this video was helpful. If it was, please comment, like, and subscribe. And again, 2 things. Check the link in the description. Check out Applied Ballistics. We can get whatever you're looking for drop shipped to you, or if you're in town in Lafayette, Indiana, or in the area, we are the only indoor range here. and we have great stuff to show you, great stuff to tell you. We have awesome guys here that have been military guys, law enforcement officers, so if you have questions about things, they're a great resource. And as always, check me out on Instagram. It's more training focused, less gun review focused, less instructional focused, but I do a lot of lifting, training, no chill tactical on Instagram. We will see you guys on the next one.